Hello everyone, it's time to review the results for August's 3-card blind main event tournament. This month we had a total of 279 participants, 91 of which were brand new players to the main event tournament. So if you're a new player watching this video, welcome and thank you for trying out the format. Among the 279 decks submitted, there were 209 unique decks. When we weigh cards in those decks by their performance and run them through the Simpsons Diversity Index, it becomes clear that this is one of the healthiest metas that we have seen in a long time. This is the third most diverse meta that we've seen in the history of this tournament, and it's the most diverse meta that we've seen since March of 2024. The 3-card blind diversity grade for this month is a B+. I suspect that this diversity was in part a result of the bans from the prior month, particularly the bans of Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, and Sen's Tactician. These were historically safe options for many players, and these options going away alongside many appealing new options appearing in Bloomborough like Heartfire Hero, Bandit's Talent, Tender Wild Guide, and many others, created a playing field with many distinct options, new and old alike, to brew with. A further testament to this meta's health is that the most popular card this month was Ancient Tomb, with a popularity of 7.89%. As a strong mana source that can support several different decks, it's not surprising to see Ancient Tomb at the top of the list. But what is particularly remarkable is that for the most popular card this month, Ancient Tomb was not that popular. Across all months in the history of this event, this is the least popular, most popular card we have seen to date. Because the popularity of cards was less top-loaded this month, and the overall diversity of the meta, I don't feel I have any additional trends to share with you beyond what you will see from discussing our winners. Alright, let's begin with the one obvious trend that we got to see in the winners of our Novice and Aspirant pods, which was the strength of Bandit's Talent. Thonk in Novice 3, Ageno 3 in Novice 1, and A-Plague and Santi, tied in Aspirant 1, were all playing the same deck, which was Bandit's Talent, Mishra's Factory, and Mox Jet. With hand attack and threats that are trickier than usual to interact with, it shouldn't surprise you to hear that this was the most popular deck used this month and that it did claim some wins. Bandit's Talent aside, most other winners were fairly unique, so let's press forward. In Novice 4, our winner was Leld, who was playing Crystal Vein, Mox Emerald, and Words of Wilding. Even though generally speaking libraries are empty in 3-card blind, you still would have a draw during your draw step as you would in a normal game of Magic, which means you can use Words of Wilding's replacement effect even while your library is empty to get a 2/2 bear instead of draw a card. This is a very cool deck, and it's the first time we've seen Words of Wilding submitted to the main event. Because of its strong performance and very low sample size, it's actually become the second highest win rate card of all time at an 86% average score. In Novice 2, our winner was Shadow Sun, who was playing Boseiju Who Endures, Hickory Woodlot, and Tender Wild Guide. Tender Wild Guide is a new to the format card from Bloomborough that has potential as both a 2-drop and as a 4-drop for decks that have the extra mana to pay for the Offspring cost. As in the case for Shadow Sun's deck, Tender Wild Guide represents a marginal improvement over a card like Steel Overseer and might just be the best green 2-drop that we have available right now. In Aspirant 3, our winner was Catholic Beans, who was playing Flash, Suppress and Scary, and World Spineworm. Flash decks have been an important part of the meta for a while now. They're extremely fast, and if you aren't prepared to deal with them, their ability to cheat out massive amounts of power and toughness onto the board is essentially unparalleled. We will return to discussing Flash a little bit more later in this video. In Aspirant 2, our winner was Small Crepe, who was playing Dismember, Hammerheim, and Heartfire Hero. Since Sen's Tactician, Path to Exile, and Swords to Plowshares have all been banned, this deck has become the closest imitator to what was the most popular deck in the prior month. This new iteration has a few differences here and there, such as Dismember being probably a strictly worse piece of removal than something like Path to Exile, and Heartfire Hero can grow and attack in the same turn cycle, but ultimately you end up with a deck that has a similar feel and is also very effective. In Contender 5, our winner was Omne Aurum Non, who was playing Island, Sleep Curse Fairy, and the Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. Tabernacle has very much been a meta-dependent hit-or-miss card, and it's one that had fallen out of popularity several months ago. I think it's a very cool card, and I'm excited to see it get some wins again. In Contender 4, our winner was KC, who was playing Boseiju Who Endures, Mox Emerald, and Mutavault. This is the blueprint for the Turn 1 Boseiju deck, and it is the deck that I think best leverages Boseiju's strengths. This was unquestionably a great choice by KC, but I can't help myself and I have to offer this critique. I think Mishra's Factory is generally speaking going to be better than Mutavault because it can block a little more favorably by pumping itself while blocking. In Contender 3, our winner was Wonton Soup 1, who was playing Hexdrinker, Thoughtseize, and Undiscovered Paradise. This is a formula for success that is as old as the event itself. A powerful scaling 1-drop combined with the strongest turn 1 hand attack spell available will earn you many free wins against decks that simply fold to the hand attack, with a great backup plan against the decks that don't. In Contender 2, we had a tie between Placeholder and Cephalopod. Placeholder was playing Academy Ruins, Calciform Pools, and the Filigree Silex. This is a deck new to the main event that uses Filigree Silex to lock the opponent out of the game, and Academy Ruins to turn that Filigree Silex into a win condition that allows you to shoot the opponent for 10 damage twice while your opponent watches helplessly. Talon and Tails won Contender 1 with essentially the same deck, but using Dreadship Reef instead of Calciform Pools. I'm always impressed when members of this community find new ways to leverage existing cards to great effect. Tied to Placeholder in Contender 2 was Cephalopod, who was playing Angel of Sanctions, Acacian Store, and Maze of It. This deck may remind many of you of the deck that Amethyst They/Them won the main event overall with last month, which was Living Conundrum, Maze of It, and Sand Silos. With Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares banned, the risk of Angel of Sanctions getting exiled and therefore being unable to use its Embalm effect from the graveyard is extraordinarily low, making it possibly the best threat available in this particular type of deck. And finally, we have a tie for our winners in Exemplar, which were Chico and MWB, who were both playing Flash, Surprising Scary, and World Spineworm. As we mentioned earlier, this is an extremely explosive strategy that can easily take wins if the other players in the pod aren't ready for it. I found it interesting and noteworthy that Flash was the winning deck in our highest ELO pod, as well as our lowest ELO pod. Our champion overall this month, Will Work for Sugar, came in 4th in Exemplar playing Angel of Sanctions, Acacian Store, and Maze of It, and a former champion, Icorn, tied for 4th with the same deck. There's no question that this deck was an absolute powerhouse and was favored by several skilled high ELO players. With that, I'd like to congratulate our new champion, Will Work for Sugar, for claiming the title with an 1879 ELO rating. And one more congratulations to all of our winners this month, so now we can move on to discussing the cards that will be included on the community ban vote. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that selecting cards for this list was not as easy as it usually is because the meta was particularly healthy and especially diverse. For that reason, I'd like to thank folks from the Discord who participated in the game balance discussion by sharing their insights on which cards they thought would be most appropriate to include on this list and why. Let's begin with a couple of the easy choices, starting with Flash. Flash won the tournament overall this month, proving that this strategy is capable of producing amazing results even at the highest ELOs. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Flash also won the lowest ELO pod, indicating that it can stomp more new and casual players. Having a strong performance across all different ranges of ELOs made this card an easy choice to include on this list. The next card on this list is Bandit's Talon. which was the 6th most popular card overall this month, and it put up a strong performance, especially in lower elo pods where it picked up several wins. Now, I do want to caveat all this by saying that although I think this card is very strong, I think it's a little weaker than a lot of people may realize on first read through. I think players see the words discard 2 cards and the fact that it causes opponents to lose life for having 1 or fewer cards in their hand, and jump to the exaggerated conclusion that this card is a Shrieking Affliction glued to a Mind Rake, 2 cards that were independently banned for how powerful they are. I would say that more often than not, Bandit's talent is only going to make an opponent discard 1 card, and the fact that it needs to be leveled up and does less damage than Shrieking Affliction makes it more of a bargain bin version of its banned counterparts. Nevertheless, it is extremely powerful and has earned its place on this list. Next we have Maze of Ith, which had a pod win and was a particularly popular choice among high elo players, especially in combination with Angel of Sanctions. After seeing this card win July's tournament overall, in combination with its impressive performance this month, it makes sense to include this card on the list. Next up we have Thoughtseize, which was tied for the 6th most popular card this month with Bandit's talent. Thoughtseize displayed its typically strong performance this month, but it was almost 3 times as popular this month as it has been historically. I believe that Thoughtseize's increase in popularity could be explained by the absence of Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares, leaving players looking for other strong options that earn them free wins in combination with strong 1-drops. Thoughtseize is a one-size-fits-all form of hand attack that rarely has matches where it completely misses value. If Thoughtseize were added to the ban list, it may force players to make more meaningful trade-offs and decisions as to when they want to include a turn 1 hand attack spell and which one to select. And the final card on this list is the Filigree Silex, which had multiple pod wins and a higher presence in high elo pods. Its unique position of being a versatile removal spell, as well as an inevitable win condition, makes it a uniquely challenging card to try to plan around. I think it's also worth mentioning here that although we may no longer see the exact same type of deck list, Ratchet Bomb is a nearly identical form of removal that lacks that win condition component that makes the Filigree Silex so strong. So if we said goodbye to the Filigree Silex, we would still see decks able to leverage this type of removal, even if they can't tap into the same kind of potential that the Filigree Silex has. And that wraps up the cards that will be part of the ban vote for this month. Don't forget to visit the website, which will be in the description, to cast your vote. Thank you all again for another incredible month of 3-card blind. I'm looking forward to seeing what we have in store for next month. Thanks for watching everyone, and see you soon.